Hey y'all, it's Ryan. Tomorrow starts March, and for me, that means breaking out all of my fun pastel colors. So, in today's video, we're going to draw this pretty pastel lake scene. So, grab your drawing tools and let's get to it.
So here we have our really nice pastel lake scene. We're going to use a canvas that is 3000 by 3000. There we go. And then the DPI is set to 300. So in Procreate, go ahead and create a new canvas, and we are going to get started creating our lake scene. So I'm going to tap on my layers, tap the plus sign, and then I'm using my Spring Pastel Landscape color palette, and I'll link it in the description box below for you if you'd like to use it too. I'm going to start with this really dark pink right here. I'm going to change my brush to this soft brush that can be found in the Airbrushing color set. And then I am going to split my canvas up into thirds because I'm going to be creating that sunrise, sunset kind of gradient look to the background. So I'm just going to roughly draw in the pink area in the top third. Now I'm going to change to this yellow, really light yellow right here. I'm going to kind of overlap that pink just a little bit. There I have my yellow. And then the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to come up here to my adjustments and select blur. And I'm going to set that blur all the way up to about 45%. So now I get this nice gradient right here where my pink and yellow meet because I am blurring those two together. Okay. So here I have my background layer. Now I'm going to build my mountains on top of that. So click the plus sign for a new layer. For this one, I am going to use my 6B pencil, which can be found in the sketching brushes. I like using the 6B pencil because it already has a rough edge to it, and since I'm doing mountains, I don't need the sides to be perfect and square. So I'm gonna select this really dark color teal to start working on my mountain. I'm gonna start off my canvas and start working up and then kind of zigzag across my sky. So again, I really love, I need to set my opacity all the way up to 100, and I'm gonna turn my brush size, let's do 50. So I love drawing mountains because again, I don't have to worry about my hand being steady while I'm drawing these mountains. Having these jagged lines is nice because mountains, like I said, aren't perfectly level or perfectly smooth going down the side. So now I have my nice mountain side. I'm gonna change that a little bit. Okay. And then I am going to draw a line going straight across. Let me finish on the side of the canvas. Draw a line going straight across my mountains. And then I'm going to drag and drop just into this mountain range in the back. Okay. On top of these mountains, I'm going to click my layers to add a new layer. I'm going to change my brush or my color to this lighter color blue. And I'm going to draw a second set of mountains in front of this darker color. So again, starting off of my canvas, but I'm gonna do the opposite. I'm gonna start by going down a little bit. And then right here, I need to zoom in and just fix that right there. Okay. And again, I'm going to draw a straight line across my canvas. Drag in my blue color to fill. I need to color in this area right here. Okay. I actually want to add kind of another small mountain right there. There we go. That looks a little better. Okay. Next up, I am going to change my color again to this lighter color blue. And I am going to drag this down below my lowest mountains. So I've created a lake or water down here. Let me try this even lighter color so that we really see. There we go. Draw another line. Now drag. There we go. Okay, so now I have a clear separation between my water and then my mountains and then my sky. So I want to add some details into the water. So I'm actually going to create kind of rocks coming in. And for that, so that they really stand out, I'm going to use these green colors over here on the right-hand side of my palette. So in a new layer, I'm going to select my darkest green first. I'm still using the 6B pencil because again, I like the texture that it adds. Starting off my canvas, drag it down, and then I'm going to draw a straight line over and then connect those. Drag in my color to fill just that area. There we go. Now I'm actually going to use my select tool and I'm going to select freeform and I'm going to drag this out. So I'm just going to make it a little longer than I had it. And then I want to mirror this piece onto the left-hand side. So instead of trying to copy it exactly, I'm going to go to my layers, I'm going to swipe to the left and click duplicate. Use the arrow and then click flip horizontal so that it flips it for me. And then I'm going to make this one a little shorter. And there we go. So now I have my two rocks or maybe some more mountains here. Maybe this is a lake within mountains. Kind of cool. So now I have these two. I want these two layers together. So with two fingers, I'm going to pinch them together to make one. I'm going to work on my second set of rocks out in the water. So I'm going to add a new layer, click on my color wheel, go to this light minty green. And just like I did on this side, I'm going to start off of my canvas and just draw a jagged line down. And then a straight line across. And connect them. Grab my color and drag it into just that spot. And just like I did with these two, I'm going to come into my layers, swipe to the left and click duplicate. Use the select, click flip horizontal, I'm going to drag him over to the left. This one, I'm going to make it a lot larger. I'm going to scoot it over to the left just a little bit more. And then like I did with my top ones, I'm going to pinch those two layers together to merge them into one. I'm going to do one more rock over on the right. So click the layers tab, click in my color wheel and select this last, it's a very light yellow for my last rock. And this one, I am going to again start off my canvas, but I'm going to draw just off the canvas on both sides. And there we have it. So the next thing I'm going to add is I'm going to add a sun in the sky up here behind my mountains. So I'm going to click on the plus sign. Now because I want them behind my mountain range, I'm going to click and hold on that layer and drag it down until it's underneath or behind my mountains. Excuse me. I'm going to come back into my colors and I'm going to stick with this bright yellow that I had here for the rock. And just up in the corner, I'm going to draw a circle, hold it until it snaps, and then I'm going to put one finger on my canvas so that it snaps into a perfect circle, and then let go. Drag my color down into the sun, make sure that is filled completely. I'm going to resize my sun. Oop, let me turn it back on uniform. So resize my sun. I'm gonna put it just coming up or going behind the mountains, whether we're having a sunrise or a sunset has yet to be determined. Now this sun is very solid. I do want some glow to it, so it actually looks like a sun giving off some rays. So come into my layers, I'm going to swipe to the left, click duplicate. On my bottom layer, I'm gonna come into my adjustments and select blur. So now I'm creating that nice radial blur coming from the sun, so it's not a perfect circle. Set that to about 15. And again, smush those two layers together to make one. So before we start out adding any clouds into the sky, I want to first add shadows on all of my rocks and on my mountains back here. So the first one I'm going to add shadows to is going to be this dark teal layer. So in my layers, I'm going to click on my dark teal layer, click the plus sign to add a new layer, select that layer and click clipping mask. I am going to change my brush. I'm going to come into my airbrushing set and change it to the soft brush. And I'm going to set it down to about 8%. And I'm still on a clipping mask, so I don't have to worry about opacity just yet. And then I am going to just trace over. So because I'm using a clipping mask, I don't have to worry about drawing or starting over here. I just need to trace wherever the mountain, my light blue mountain is on top of my teal mountain. So I'm gonna change that brush to about 3. And again, wherever the mountain range touches is where I'm just going to add a shadow to it, or what will look like a shadow whenever we're done. So up in my adjustments, I'm gonna go to blur again, and I am going to set this blur, let's go to 16, but that is still very, very dark. So I'm gonna change the opacity of that layer. I'm gonna change that down to 50. So you can see that there's a shadow there. It's just not as aggressive as it was when we first started. So now I'm going to add my shadows onto my light blue layer wherever my green mountains or my green rocks touch that as well. So coming into my light blue mountain layer, click the plus sign, click on that and select clipping mask. Still have my soft brush that I'm using, and again, wherever it touches the mountains is where I'm just kind of tracing over. Come into my adjustments, select blur, bump that up to 16, come into that layer, click on the N, and set that opacity down to 50. So just like I did on my previous layers, I'm going to start with this dark green mountains because I have my lighter green overlapping it just a little bit, so I want to add that shadow. So select my layer where my dark green is, click the plus to add a new one in between them, and then set that as a clipping mask. I'm still using my soft brush in the airbrushing set, and I have it set to 3% with the opacity at 100. So wherever the lighter green overlaps my darker one is where I am going to just trace to add a shadow between the two. Again, come up to my adjustments, select blur, set that blur up to 16%. Come back into that layer and turn that opacity down to 50. Okay, the last one is right here where this light yellow overlaps with my light green. So find my light green layer, click the plus, select this layer and select clipping mask. And then outline where they overlap. Come into my adjustments, select blur, and bump that up to 16. Come back into that layer, select the N for the blending mode, and then I'm going to change the opacity down to 50. All right, so now we have our shadows on top of our rocks and on top of our mountains. So now let's work on adding clouds into the sky. I like to add the wispy kind of feather-like soft clouds into the sky. So here's how I do that. In my layers, I'm going to add a new layer on top. Then I'm going to use the selecting tool, set to freehand. And I do have color fill on, so I need to make sure that I have that set to this extremely light blue. And then I am going to start off of my canvas, and I am just going to draw in the base shape for these clouds. I'm going to connect it and then click on it. So now it has set with that white, and I'm going to do that a few times in a few different areas. And then I'm going to use the smudge tool and the color tool to change and make these look more natural. Okay, so now I have my clouds kind of set where I want them. I'm gonna come into first I'm gonna set a clipping mask on top of them. So add a new layer, select it and click clipping mask. I'm gonna come back in with my pink and my yellow that I have in my background on top of them with the soft brush still. I'm gonna bump that up to 5. And I am just going to lightly shade in the pink and the yellow. I'm gonna add the pink on the top of the clouds and the yellow on the bottom. Okay. So now I'm going to come in with my smudge tool, make sure it's set to that soft brush, and I am going to merge those two layers together. Because I do want to use the white in the background to soften the color of my pink and my yellow. I'm going to make sure my opacity is set up to 100. I'm going to turn the size of my brush down to about 8. And I am just going to lightly, basically I'm pushing the color around and I'm pushing it out, so it gives it that really feathery kind of look to it, and it softens the edges. I'm gonna lower that brush size just a little bit, just to give a variety of that feathering look to it. I'm gonna blend that pink in just a little bit more. Okay. I'm gonna do the same here. And you can see the mountains kind of showing through the clouds, so it kind of gives it this misty look to it, which I really love. Again, just using the smudge tool to give that kind of feathered look to these clouds. All right, So the last step that I'm going to do is I'm actually going to come in with my eraser. I'm still having it set on soft brush, but I'm going to make it the smaller soft brush. I'm going to set this down to about 3%, and I'm just going to go in and I'm going to erase. Let's bump that up a bit. Going to erase, I'm pushing very lightly so that I'm creating more of the streaks in the clouds. Again, just pushing really lightly so to not create that really dark, but just little streaks here and there. So it's not one big clump of clouds. And come at it at different angles. All right, and I'm actually going to add one more up here in the top. So again, going back with that freehand select tool, I have color fill on. I want to make sure I have white set. Starting off of my canvas, fill, clipping mask on that. Come back in with that pink and that yellow. Make sure I have my soft brush on. Okay, I'm going to smush those two layers together. Use my smudging tool to again soften up the edges of the clouds, make them a little bit more wispy. And then last step, come in with my eraser. And press lightly to create more of that wispy look in the clouds.
And there we have our pretty pastel lake. I don't know about you, but that makes me feel so ready for warmer temperatures and spring break. Thank you so much for hanging out and drawing with me today. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to this channel and hit the bell so that you're notified when new videos are posted. Hope to see you soon.